everybody. Welcome to Fibromyalgia Real Talk. Today we're filming on location. I'm Helen Thompson. I just wanted to give you guys a different scenery. We're out here in San Diego where I live. It's a beautiful day on the beach, so I just wanted to share that with y'all because this is my happy place. And this is where I come when I'm having a really hard day or just not feeling very good. I come here and I kind of get recharged and regenerated from my beach. It's really cool. So our subject today, one of my subscribers was requesting a video on fibromyalgia flares. What are flares? How long do they last? What can we do about them? So that's why I decided to do this out here because flares have a lot to do with the weather for us. So let's start with what is a fibromyalgia flare. First of all, how do you know that you're flaring? So when your fibromyalgia symptoms are temporarily increased in number and intensity all at one time, that's considered a fibromyalgia flare. So it can happen anytime without warning, or we can feel it coming on depending on what our triggers are and what's happening in our atmosphere around us. So typically fibromyalgia flares can last anywhere from days to weeks to months. I flared for 6 months one time just because the weather down here was really humid and cool and cloudy all the time, and I'm really sensitive to that. So it was a really hard year. So we just don't know. I mean, there's no way to regulate it. There's no way for us to know how long our flares are going to last, but there are things that everyone can do to help us out. So first of all, you have to know what your triggers are. So we're going to talk about what triggers fibromyalgia flares. So weather, like I said, is our really big one. Most of us flare when the weather is cool to cold or very humid. There are some fibro people who can't handle the humidity and the heat together. I'm one of those that I'm really sensitive to the humidity, and I can't handle the weather too hot, which is why I moved to San Diego, because here the temperature is even most of the time. It doesn't get up into the hundreds on the coast, and it usually doesn't get below 40 in the winter time. So it's really a lot easier to control my symptoms over here. So I did move down here to San Diego from Oregon because Oregon is really cold weather most of the year. I mean, they only have sun like 2 months out of the summer. I was really flared up all the time, having a really hard time controlling my pain, controlling my symptoms. And so I moved to San Diego, and wow, what a difference that made. So those of you who are wondering if where you live makes a difference, it really does. It makes a huge difference. So think about it. If you're living somewhere where there's snow right now and the temperatures are super cold, think about moving somewhere that's warmer and more tropical, because that's the only way that you're going to control your life better. So another thing that flares us is atmospheric pressure changes. So the reason this happens is because we're all made of energy, and so our environmental energy we also react to. So if there's any kind of barometer changes in the pressure, we will feel that, and sometimes we'll flare for a couple of days from that. So just something to be aware of. So other than and the other thing about the weather and the atmosphere is that when the planets are in retrograde, and what that does is that means the planets are moving the opposite direction that they usually move, and it changes the magnetic field here on Earth, and we feel that very acutely. So whenever you hear Mercury's in retrograde or whatever it is, that's a very sensitive time for us as well, because we just feel it. My body, I just feel tingly all over. I get headaches. My anxiety levels are high. So it just, everybody reacts differently to their flares, but that's kind of what happens to me just from the Mercury retrograde. So we can also get flares from too much stimulation. So y'all probably learned from some of my other videos that we're very, very sensitive to light, to sounds, to light, sounds, and smells. So If you're wearing like really heavy perfumes around us, it can cause a migraine, put us into a flare. If we're sitting at home and the TV's blasting and someone's listening to music in the other room and everybody's talking, that really overstimulates us and can cause us to flare. So sometimes you'll see us just retreat to a bedroom, to a quiet place where we're by ourselves when that happens, because we just can't handle all the stimulation. So don't think that we're withdrawing from you or trying to get away from you. If you see us kind of disappear from the room, that's kind of a clue that, maybe you can turn the TV down or turn something off, or just kind of make the environment a little bit, smoother, so that we can be out there and be enjoying it as well. Friends and family, we get overwhelmed by our anxiety. Just thinking about having to go out and meet you, like for lunch or for dinner in a restaurant, because the sounds in the restaurants of everybody talking, and then you're trying to concentrate on the waiter, trying to give him your order. We have to concentrate really hard just to have a conversation with you, because the music in the restaurant, the noise, everything that's going on around us sometimes can just be too much. So, if we go to the mall, sometimes I go to the mall and I look around at all the tags and all the choices, and everything just really overwhelms me so much I start getting a panic attack. Sometimes I have to just leave the store and go home because, I just can't handle it that day. So, if we make plans or we're going to have lunch with you and we call and cancel at the last minute, don't be upset. It's just because our anxiety levels are high and we're not going to be able to handle it. We're not going to be very good company, because we're just in that mode where we can't take it that day. So what's the next trigger? Exercise. Yes, exercise can be a trigger. Even though we are supposed to try and exercise with fibromyalgia, if we do too much exercise, it can send us to a flare. If we do too little exercise, it can put us into a flare. So we have to really be careful. We can exercise, definitely, and we just have to start slow and kind of learn our limits, because if we don't learn what our limits are and how quickly we can accelerate our exercise, it really can keep us flared up constantly, and then we don't want to exercise because it flares us up and it's painful and all this kind of stuff. So you have to be patient with us. We have to go slow. I found that walking is the best thing, and like doing water aerobics or even getting in the pool and walking circles around the pool is really good exercise. It's really good for your muscles, your joints, and it'll just help you get off the couch. Stress. Stress can cause a flare. Stress can cause all of our symptoms. Stress is our enemy. It makes everything worse. Poor sleep. We can't help that, because those of us with fibromyalgia, we don't get that restorative sleep that the rest of you get, where our body gets to reset every night from everything that happened during the day. So there's not a lot we can do about our sleep. We can only do the best that we can, because our bodies just don't get that sleep that we need right now. Let's see. Depression. When we get depressed, we get really down about things, we get frustrated, we tend to focus more on our pain. So that can, our moods can definitely cause flares. The moods of people around us can cause flares, because if people around us are being negative, yelling, putting us down, just giving us all kinds of negative vibes, that can put us in a flare. So family, everybody, just know that, when you're being hard on us for the things that we can't do, you're actually becoming part of the problem. So that's something you don't want to do. Diet. Diet is a big trigger. There's a lot of diet triggers for fibromyalgia people. And honestly, guys, you just really need to keep a journal of when your flares happen. Usually they say when you get a flare, it's going to happen. It happened because of something you did 24 to 48 hours before that flare. So you need to go back when you have a flare and think, what did I do the last 2 days? Did I eat something? Did I exercise too much? Was there some kind of stressor that could have caused this flare? And once you know what your triggers are, it's a lot easier to stay away from them so that you don't flare as much. So the foods that cause flares, aspartame is a big one. That's the artificial sweetener that they use in a lot of foods and especially in diet sodas. You really want to stay away from that because it's a big trigger of flares. Sugar, caffeine, tomatoes, believe it or not, and dairy products. And you may have gluten issues, you may have other food allergy issues that also can cause flares because I did a food allergy test and found out I was allergic to the protein in dairy, and I'm also allergic to corn. So I have to totally try and cut those out of my diet because when I eat them or take them in, it causes inflammation in my body, and then I just feel really crappy, and then it puts me into a flare with my pain. So I found that clean eating, eating a lot of plants, vegetables, fruits, things like that, works really well with my body and keeps me from flaring. Hormones is a big one, especially for women. When we have our cycles every month, those put us into a flare like that, and we just have a terrible time with it. So just be kind during that time because we're definitely going to have some issues. The only thing that stopped that for me was when I got my hysterectomy, and now I control my hormones with pills, and so I don't have those ups and downs that causes those flares anymore. So that's an option if you're not having children anymore. And then surgery, trauma, or injury can also cause a flare. So how can we manage or combat our flares? Like I said, make a journal so that you can find out what your triggers are. Don't stress about things that are out of your control, which is a really hard one because we all worry about when we're in a flare, the things we can't do, that we're letting everybody down, that whatever. So things you cannot control yourself is weather, poor sleep, and your hormones, basically. Everything else you can control. You can control your attitude, you can control your environment to a certain extent, who you hang around with. If you hang around with people that are constantly giving you negative vibes or, being toxic relationships, things like that, those are going to cause you to constantly flare. So you really have to take a look at the people that you have in your life, and sometimes you have to cut those people loose and get them out of your life. I've actually had to cut a lot of friends and family out of my life just so that I can control my environment and my stress so I don't have so many flares, and I'm so much happier and do so much better since I've done that. So watch out, friends and family. You might be getting cut off if you don't get on board and start being supportive and understanding that we do have a chronic illness and helping us out. Okay, so basically the best way to handle it is to just have a plan. So what I do, because I know if I go outside and it's a little bit windy and the wind is blowing on the back of my neck, or if I'm at work and I'm sitting underneath a vent, I have to move and sit somewhere else, or I have to wrap myself up because I just know that the cold on my neck is going to cause a flare. So if you're aware of those things, I always carry a scarf with me so that if I'm outside or if I'm outside late when the sun's going down, I have something to kind of protect me from going into a flare. So I wear scarves a lot, even in the summertime sometimes. And then just doing like relaxation techniques, taking warm baths with your Epsom salts, your CBD, whatever you put in your bath to help you relax and feel better. Yoga and stretching is really good to do when you're in a flare, and basically just lots of rest. I mean, when we're in a flare, our body just needs time to reset and to heal. So yes, we sleep a lot when we're in flares because that's what our body needs. So we do the best we can, but I suggest you take a lot of naps when you're in a flare because your body needs the rest. So overall, flares are not as complicated as people think, but they can be very annoying and very irritating, and they greatly affect our quality of life. Overall, you just need to reduce your stress in life, do things to relax, get exercise, and plan your days so that you don't have 50 errands on your day off because that's going to put you in a flare. It's too much. So I can't be out longer than 2 hours doing errands, or I get so exhausted that I can barely walk to my car or even make it back into the house when I get home. So you really need to plan your time out. Spread your errands out over the week. Have people help you with them. whatever it is you need to do. But don't overbook your day, because that's going to be difficult. So other ways we can positively cope with flares: you can avoid negative self-talk when you have a flare, because we can't do much. We can't help out, with the kids. We might not be able to cook dinner. We can't do errands that day. So we're already really hard on ourselves for that, and feeling guilty and feeling failure. We don't need you to come in and say, oh, you're so lazy, or why didn't you do this today, or, I really needed that done. That just makes our flares worse. So we need to be able to talk about our flares when we're having a flare day and let you know, because you need to know that day you cannot count on us for anything. So maybe I can get the kids off to school in the morning, but I won't be able to pick them up. I'll need, Dad to pick them up. Dad's going to have to come home and cook dinner that day. Kids are going to have to take care of themselves, do their own homework, do their laundry, whatever. But, you need to have a conversation with your whole family and your friends, and you need to tell them what you need and how they can pitch in and help you on those days, because you're not going to be able to help them. And this will help the family kind of run a little bit more smoother, and people won't be as angry because they already know, oh, Mom's having a flare day, we got to kick into the plan. So, then everybody's involved and everybody feels like they're helping, and not just sitting around and, feeling helpless or maybe angry because you're on the couch and you can't do what they need you to do. All right. So distractions are my favorite way to get through a flare, and this is what helps me. You can find out what helps you and let people know how they can help you during a flare. But here's some things you can do for us. Visits from friends and family is great. You can just sit and talk with us, maybe play a game with us. Just being there in the same room, makes us feel like we're loved and that we're wanted and we're not just forgot about. Watching funny movies, because that's going to lift up your spirits and get your mind off your pain. I get lost in a good book sometimes, go into my little fantasy world, walking outside, coloring in coloring books. Put your favorite music on, because whenever I do that, it always makes me get up and dance. And even if I'm in a flare, I'll still get up and, kind of move around and be like, yeah, this is, feel-good music or whatever. So do it, because it always makes you feel better. Do whatever makes you happy. That's the best thing that you can do. So basically, that's it for flares. I hope this helped. And I hope you guys enjoyed the scenery out here today. It's a beautiful day. And just one more message to friends and family. Just remember that we are fighting every single day. We're fighting our bodies. We have no control over our condition. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So basically, you guys can live your lives a week ahead of time, but we cannot do that. We have to go day by day. And so that's why sometimes when we make plans for the weekend, we don't know how we're going to feel when we get to the weekend. And we might be okay by the time it gets here, or we might just be like, you know what, I just have no energy left from this week. I just can't do it. And we just need you to be understanding. We need you to be sympathetic, and don't try to always push us to do more, because when we do, it just flares us worse and it's not good for us. So pushing us doesn't help. So basically, understanding and sympathy, and bring us warm blankets. You can make a basket for flare days and put things in there that you might need for your flare. Put a good book in there, put a movie in there, put a blanket, put some snacks and things. And so when you're having a flare day, you just grab your basket, you got everything you need right there. You just chill out, have a good day. It's awesome. So I hope this helped you guys. I love you. Stay safe out there, and gentle hugs until the next video. Bye.